Baptist podcast, we gather around to talk theology, politics, and the sweet banjo sound. Kevin Thompson leads the way, teacher and preacher too. With a men's quartet, the harmonies ring true. Gather around the mic, let's find our way, singing praises, strumming banjo strings all day. Amputated Baptist podcast, where we all belong. Join the harmony, let it carry us along. With a passion for faith and a banjo by our side, we don't deep, we don't hide, we take it all in stride. From parables to politics, every topic on the table, let's harmonize together, let's make it stable. In the chord progressions we find our peace, singing praises, strumming banjo strings all day. Amputated Baptist podcast, where we all belong. Join the harmony, let it carry us along.
Theology, politics, and a little bit of banjo. You're listening to the Amputated Baptist podcast. And now, here is your host, the Amputated Baptist himself, Kevin Thompson.
Well, hello and welcome back to the podcast. Today, as you might have noticed here, I am not in my usual home studio. I am in the great outdoors. So today I was supposed to take the kids fishing. And so I did. And then I was going to go home, record this interview, probably take them out to lunch. But I don't know, they wanted to stay. We're here in Janesville, Wisconsin, at the Kiwanis Pond, part of the Rotary Gardens. And they begged me to stay. So I figured, okay, well, you know what? We're just going to record this here. And so I believe this qualifies me for Father of the Year. I'm not looking for the credit, but Father's Day is coming. So I want to remind my kids of this moment when they think about that coming up just in a few weeks. But anyway, we have a first-time guest on the podcast today, and that's Pastor Lee Snow. Lee, welcome to the Amputated Baptist podcast.
How's it going? You doing all right?
Doing all right.
Good.
Okay,
Good.
my first question for you, and if people are familiar with you, this won't sound weird, but for everybody else, it will. What are you wearing two shoes at the moment?
I knew you were going to ask me. No, I ain't got no shoes on at all.
Okay.
I also got gym shorts on because I just threw this on because they was in the truck. But
yeah,
you can't see that. You got to
Okay,
check in
so-
on TikTok for that one.
Yes. So if you're not familiar with Lee Snow, and I'm assuming you have a much larger audience than I do, but if you're
It's
watching,
all right.
if you're watching TikTok or YouTube, Instagram, you've got to catch Lee, and he's a hilarious guy. These short little clips, and it always amazes me. You know, you're wearing one shoe. You're wearing. I got to ask.
I don't
you,
know what y'all are talking about. I
What
always have
topic?
shoes on in all of my content. I don't know. I don't know what
Yeah.
y'all are talking about.
I'm gonna have to grill down on this one, and I'm gonna go 60 minutes here, and
I don't know. I don't know what y'all are talking about. I always have two shoes on for all of my videos, and everybody keeps commenting you only got one shoe on it. I don't know where they're getting it, but whatever,
All right. So audience, you have a job to do. I want you to go check out Lee Snow at Lee M. Snow on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube, Facebook, and I want you to be the judge, and I want to keep these emails coming in and until finally you confess.
That's fine. I don't know I don't have shoes on right now, but in all my videos, I think I have shoes on. As far as I know, at least,
All right. Well, let's back up here. So, kind of introduce yourself to our audience. Give us kind of your testimony. How did you come to know the Lord, and how did you come to basically the place where you're at right now?
Yes. So I'm Lee. I'm the preacher at the Warm Springs Road Church of Christ in Columbus, Georgia. I got a wife, 3 kids, and I've got my hands in a lot of different stuff these days, but primarily I'm a preacher and a content creator. So
yeah.
As far as history and whatnot, I grew up in North Alabama for the latter half of my childhood. So I say I'm from Arab, Alabama, but I was born in Florida, but uh, I grew up like any normal child of divorced parents and whatnot. And so went through all that garbage and went to college, and some stuff happened, finally got my attention. And so I started going to a Bible study once a week. They would one of well, now he's a really good friend. My son's actually named after him, but
Hmm.
one of the guys that was on the trumpet line at Jack State with me would have a Bible study every Wednesday night. So I started going to that, and then started going to church. I was baptized into Christ February 2nd, 2009. And then about a month and a half later, I was instructed, we'll put it that way,
Hmm.
that I needed to start preaching, and that there was already basically the setup. Here's where you're going to preach. They need a preacher. So I went and I started preaching. And then in August of 2010, I went to the Memphis School of Preaching up in Memphis, graduated in 12, and I've been preaching ever since.
All right. So you came to Christ through a friend, just a friend inviting you to a Bible study.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Dalton, he was he is one of the most evangelistic people I've ever met. And the college group there at Jacksonville Church of Christ was really, really great. And so he would invite anybody and everybody that he possibly could to come to the
Yeah.
Bible study that he held on Wednesday nights. And then we would have college devos every Monday. So I started going to the Bible study, started going to the devos, eventually started going to church, and then realized I needed to have my sins washed away. And so
Yeah.
so I was like I said, I was baptized February 2nd, 2009. But yeah, it just started from a friend of mine inviting me and hounding me over and over again. And it was exactly what I needed. His personality in that he is very good at what Paul talked about, becoming all things to all men.
Yeah.
And he saw that um I needed somebody with a backbone to stand up and say you're wrong.
Yeah.
And so that's exactly what he did, and it was perfect. It's exactly what I needed.
So I think it's a great encouragement for all of us to go out and to be bold in our faith, be bold in our witness, and not be afraid to invite people to come in. Maybe it's a small group, maybe it's a Bible study. You never know how God's going to work, but
Yeah, for sure.
this is how people come to Christ. It's not just through the pastor going out and or whatever, but it's often just one friend telling another friend, and that's really a biblical pattern. So
Yeah.
praise the Lord for that. Tell us about how did you get involved in the content creation business here?
I was bored on the house and in the house bored in 2020, and
Well,
started
2020, I
just
think we're all bored in the house.
yeah, I know. So I just started making videos. I've worked in social media for um about 16 years now. Started helping churches with their socials while I was in preaching school in Memphis. And
Mm.
so I've kind of, for the last almost 2 decades, a decade and a half now, I've been working in social media and doing like freelance management and stuff like that and graphic design. And so in 2020, I was just bored and started making goofy videos on
Mm.
TikTok, and then that blew up. And then it took a long time for the other platforms to pick up, and some of them are still being stingy. YouTube,
Yeah.
shout out to YouTube. You can give me a couple of views every now and then if you feel like it. But anyways, um, so I just started making funny videos about life, about church, so forth, and just been keeping it up for the last 6 years now.
And now you've got a new podcast.
Yeah, yeah. A buddy of mine and I, we were in school together at Memphis, and he's like my brother, and so we've played around with it for a while. We decided we were just going to go ahead and do it, but we're promising ourselves that we're going to try our best to record every week. But
Mm.
like we usually record on Thursdays, we're recording this on Thursday,
Yeah.
and we are not going to record the Back Pew Pod tonight because he and I are so slammed with work. So he's a full-time preacher down in Wildwood, Florida, and then I'm here in Columbus, and life happens and you get busy and whatnot. But we've done 4 episodes. I don't know if you call that a podcast yet, but
Yeah.
we've done 4 episodes at least.
So are you saying that the Amputated Baptist podcast took down what was it, the Back to podcast?
No, we usually record Thursday nights, but he and I
Okay.
both have a bunch of stuff going on. Part
I just
of
wanted to take
my
credit for destroying another podcast. So
part of my freelance work is I run the social media for a number of clients, but specifically this week, I run the social media for a pro arena football team. And
okay.
military night is Saturday, and I am full throttle trying to get content ready
Hmm.
and plans ready for Saturday night because it's our biggest game of the season. So
All right, since you're slammed, let's jump right into where I wanted to go here today. So you've, in addition to all your social media work, your work in the pastorate, you've written 2 books, and I want to talk about the first one here today, and that's Still Here. And
yeah.
this really grabbed my attention.
Whoa, you bought a copy and everything. Look at you,
Yeah, look at that. I've got
overachiever.
both here, so extra
Well,
credit.
good.
So I
Thank you.
bought this because the subject really grabbed my attention as someone who struggles with mental health and such challenges, anxiety and whatnot. We're finally in it. I think we're finally in an atmosphere where this can be talked about, where people are coming forward and admitting this, and I think this book is going to help a lot of people. And so I wanted to talk about it on this podcast. So if I understand this correctly, you were preaching through the book of Philippians,
Yeah.
and some folks in your church said, you know what, this ought to be a book. You ought to write this down. This should go
Well,
beyond the 4 walls.
not exactly. So, my elders asked me in at the end of 24 to start trying to put together some. We meet every year to plan out kind of what they're seeing in the church and what we need, and so they asked me to do a series of studies. Something they basically just said, "Can you talk about mental health?" And I said, I don't think I'm the one qualified to do that because that's kind of like me giving fitness information. So they said, we really want you to do it. So I put together a series on Philippians and preached through it, and it really helped me. And so a couple folks at church were talking about it after the series was over, and one of the elders here asked me, you should probably think about doing something with that in addition to podcast or radio show or something.
Yeah.
And so I took it and turned it into a book. So it's a little more in depth than my sermon series was, of course, but sermon series is still up on YouTube if you want to go check it out. I literally don't remember the name of it.
Well, I'll put a link to that in our show notes.
Yeah. And so I took the transcriptions of all of my sermons from the live stream and turned that into the book, Still Here. And I feel like it's helpful. I've gotten good feedback from it, so hopefully it's helping somebody out there.
And it seems like sales are going. You're on a best-selling list. It's doing well. And I think that, and the reason for that is I do think it is an excellent resource. So the 2 things I really like about this book is it's grounded in scripture, number 1, but it's also grounded in a setting within the local church. Those 2 things are really key. You bring in some psychology and you're throwing out some terms like that, but really that's the supplement, whereas scripture is the solid foundation which you're going through.
Right.
So you're going through Philippians. Why choose Philippians?
Because I believe Philippians is probably the best book in the 66 books of the Bible to to talk about mental health because of the
Mm.
struggles that Paul mentions,
Yeah.
with his mentality and his thought process. And I really do believe that, just from looking at the text, and it might be me, eisegeting it into it and fitting it into it. But when I read Philippians, it sounds like Paul has been there and faced those fears
Yeah.
and faced that dread. In fact, at one point he even says, we essentially gave up on life. Well,
Yeah.
that's mental health. That's the problem, that
Right.
the person that hurts themselves was in that place and didn't get help, or no one said anything to them, or they just couldn't, because of what was going on, they couldn't see the forest for the trees kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I really do, you know there's a lot of speculation about what Paul's thorn in the flesh is that he mentions, but not in Philippians, but he mentions his
Right.
thorn in the flesh. And
Second
um
Corinthians. Yeah.
and in it he even says that on top of all that was the care for the churches and the health of the local church. And
Right.
I really do, after reading Paul and not trying to fit it in, but trying to see, is this something that is related to mental health? I feel like it is. Now, I'm not a trained psychologist or therapist or counselor or anything like
Right.
that. I'm a preacher. Um, but from my perspective, as one who deals with mental health struggles, it's, I mean, it basically reads like
Yeah.
it's me talking to somebody about our struggles. So that's why I chose Philippians for still here, for the sermon series rather,
Yeah.
because I felt like it's the best insight into Paul's mental health. Um,
Yeah.
so
Philippians
yeah,
is a fascinating book. It's the epistle of joy written from a prison cell.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and here Paul, in chapter 1, he and you address this in the book. Chapter 1, here he's talking about, I would rather be dead, in the sense of
yeah,
I'd rather be with Christ, but
yeah,
I know I'm supposed to be here right now. I'd rather be there, but I'm here. Either way, I'm going to live for Christ. Either I'm going to live with Christ or I'm going to live for Christ. And I think when you look at that from the lens of mental health, wow.
yeah.
I think
It
we've
sounds
all had
like,
that.
I struggle, but I know my part, and I still have a part to play, even though I don't want to play it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there's an old saying, it there's a lot of things that I'll do for Jesus that I wouldn't do for you. And I think that's one of those times. Paul says, I don't want to be here anymore,
Right.
but I have to be, kind of thing. And I think it's not the end all be all for overcoming struggles with mental health. But I think that is
Right.
something that those of us who struggle with it need to realize, is that we're here for a reason, and we need to find that reason. And
Right.
the mental health side of things, and our self-doubt or our self-hatred, or even more than that, is just a bump in the road, kind of thing.
Yeah. I love here on page now this is sticking together.
Oh,
With
you
this
getting
emphasis I've
pages
read it.
out. Listen, I have never read the physical book. I've read the PDF before I published it. So if you tell me
Yeah.
what page, I'm
All
good
right. So
luck.
this is
I don't
page
know.
15. If you
Okay,
are
great.
struggling today, please hear this. We need you here.
Yeah,
And I don't, phrases like that hit me as, again, someone, I struggle with this from time to time. And, it sounds like um, something that's a platitude, something that could be, but there are times where that just hits home.
yeah,
And it's like, okay, I needed to hear that today.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
then just in the next section, you're talking about the need for others. And I love this. We often think of mental health as an individual pursuit. We go to therapy alone. We take medication alone. We journal alone. We pray alone. But Paul suggests that our internal peace is directly tied to our external connections. When we focus on ourselves, our anxiety grows. But this is one of the reasons why we need the local church. You weren't meant to go through this alone.
Right.
We had a pastor, Pastor Chris Bronze. He's written a couple of books. Come to our chapel at Rock County Christian School here. Plug for my school. And his great advice for people struggling through all this is, hey, you're not alone, so don't go alone. So explain to we've only got a couple of minutes left here. Explain to us what role the church should play in this, and how I need the church and the church needs me. How does that play into here the issue of mental health?
Well, you're gonna get me in trouble. Okay. First off, from the church's perspective, sit down, shut up, and listen. That's I mean, you listen. Nowadays, I'm worried that mental health is becoming the new, I don't want to say fad.
No, I know, and I understand
but
exactly what you're saying.
it's like everybody talks about, oh, I struggle with mental health.
Right.
And I'm not saying you don't. Okay. I would never say that someone doesn't struggle with mental health. But that is a spectrum. And some of the people in the pews say they struggle with mental health, meaning they have self-doubt every now and then, or they feel imposter syndrome sometimes. And some other people in the pews are thinking, I might not survive until next week.
Right.
So we've got to get out of the head of, well, I don't struggle with it, or I struggle with it in this way. And so that means that everyone is the same. And that's just simply not
Right.
true. And so we've got to sit down, shut up, and listen to people talk about it and get rid of the stigma around it. It is, man, if somebody came to a prayer request time and said, I have cancer, no one's going to think down on them. No one's going to say, well, you should do this or you should do that. It's, what are the doctors doing? What can we help? How is this going to work? That sort of thing. Someone says, I'm struggling with mental health, or I'm struggling with ideations or something like that. And it's not treated the exact same way. And it is the exact same thing. It is not your fault that you have cancer. It is not your fault that you struggle with mental health. And so I think from a church perspective, the church needs to get into the mentality of, when someone says I'm struggling, you treat that the exact same as this person just got a cancer diagnosis. Because in reality, cancer, a lot of cancers are easier to treat than mental health in a lot of ways. And so, that would be my main push for the local church, is treat it the exact same way that they just said they have cancer. How would you react in that situation? You would circle around them. You would support them. You would make meals. You would be willing to take them to the doctor's appointment. You would check on them on a regular basis. And that just does not happen. Here, now this was a long time. I've been here 11 years. It was a long time ago, and the situation has changed and people have moved and so forth. But we had one person that was really struggling with mental health. And this person came forward at the end of a sermon for, the invitation time, and basically said, like, I'm struggling. I need help. I'm really, really struggling right now. And apparently some woman walked up to this person after church and said, I knew something was wrong. If you knew something was wrong, why didn't you say something? That's, what in the world? That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of for a Christian to say. So that's our responsibility as Christians. Now, from the individual's perspective, I know this is way easier said than done, but you got to tell somebody. And if they won't listen, then you tell somebody else. And if they won't listen, then you tell somebody else. You've got to push. And also, a lot of times in struggling times, the first thing we do is isolate ourselves, because I'm embarrassed, or because they won't care, or because of this or that, or we convince ourselves of a lot of things. And you've got to push through that. And there's nothing I can say or anything anyone can do to make you do that. You've got to put one foot in front of the other and go talk to somebody, whether it's a counselor or a therapist or a psychologist or just somebody at church, you got to be willing to tell somebody.
Right. And that's why it's so hard for some people to do that, which is why if someone has the courage to do that, listen. As you said, shut up, sit down, listen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is not a drop of the hat moment when that person says something to you at church about their struggles. They have contemplated it and talked themselves out of it 1,000 times between now and then.
Yeah.
So if they're willing to say it, you've got to take it seriously.
Absolutely. I love the title of the book, Still Here. I can't recommend this book enough. It has the Amputated Baptist recommendation seal, if I had a seal. And remember, one of the things when I started this podcast, I said, unlike another podcast I've hosted, I'm not just advertising books that people send me for free. I
did not send those books to him. I did not send those books to him.
I like what I call my media mogul free books, but no, I bought this. But keep that in mind if you write a third book.
All right, I got you.
And I want to recommend it to you. We don't just do books here just for the fun of it. If I don't like it, we don't talk about it. In fact, I just turned down a guy yesterday. So buy the book.
Well, I will also tell you, in my defense for not sending you one, when the book goes live, I still don't have physical copies. I'm self-publishing through Amazon. And so it's the weirdest thing ever. But when you self-publish through Amazon, you can order author copies, but it's quicker. Like with Still Here, I had to buy a full price copy so I could have one because the author copies take like a month to get there.
Oh, wow.
So the first copy that I ever held of Still Here, I paid full price. I made my commission off of it, but I paid full Amazon price to get the book because it comes in like 2 days. The author copies take a month. So,
wow. Well, I'll tell you what. When my book is published, I'll send you a copy.
All right, good deal. Good deal. I'll trade you.
By the way,
I'll trade you.
That's breaking news. By the end of June, the Amputated Baptist book should be coming out.
Awesome. And, congratulations.
I'm still editing, still putting some things together, but we're going to do that. All right, but we are over time here, and brother, I want to be cognizant of your time.
No problem at all.
You stand with work here. So, again, the book is Still Here. We'll have the link to it in the show notes, and all of Lee's social media thing we'll have there as well. So check that out at amputedbaptist.com. So until next week, have a good rest of your week.
Amputated Baptist Podcast, where we all belong. Join the harmony, let it carry us along.